What's that?
Cold hard beer.
Is it really? That is wild. Oh, it's a La Croix.
It's a like.
Are we pretty close to getting a sponsorship deal with the La Croix? I'm pretty sure we've mentioned them like 3 or 4 times now.
Mentioned who?
La Croix.
La Croix. Well, just because I love the fruity taste of their 0-calorie sparkling water doesn't mean that they need to dive in and sponsor the podcast when we get such a regular supply of this delightful product anyway from any local supermarket. The taste of La Croix.
Oh. Refreshing, huh?
Refreshing. Peach and pear. 2 of the faves.
Peach and pear.
Together again.
Never go bear. Pet peeve right off the bat.
Ooh.
I this just triggered me. You know
Daylight
when
savings.
people order
Oh, okay. I thought you were
no.
going daylight savings.
People order a lemon lime bitters and they go, so refreshing. I hate that. It's the most basic shit. It's what people say when they never go out of the house.
I don't understand. Are you saying that a lemon lime and bitters isn't refreshing? Or are you saying it's so obviously refreshing that mentioning it is unnecessary?
That's right. And it's also like, I feel like people say it because they've heard other people say it.
Oh, you think people are saying, this is refreshing specifically for lemon lime and bitters because they're copying other people who say that? And not just because a lot of people have a drink because it's refreshing.
Look, there is a slight chance I might be like reading into this too much or projecting yet again.
Refreshing.
But you can do it with the liqueur.
Okay, see, what is it about the LLB then? Surely more people day to day are drinking a liqueur than they are drinking an LLB.
Well, okay, so yes, you've stumbled onto something quite important and integral to my point here. The LLB is a drink that people discover. They don't necessarily think to order it. So hear me out here.
I didn't say anything.
You go to a pub and you're with a group of 5 people, and 2 of them order a beer, and one of them orders a lemonade, one of them orders a Coke, and then someone goes, I'm going to have a lemon lime bitters. It's a little bit like off the menu. And I think for that reason, people think that they are a little bit special. And then they say, oh, it's just so refreshing when they take a sip. And that annoys me.
Okay. It feels like this is coming from a very real place of trauma. And I'm not trying to trivialize that. But I also think you're the only person in the world who's ever thought this, and you should be embarrassed.
It's also a very Adelaide drink.
Well, here's genuinely my association with the lemon lime and bitters. My mum, that's her go-to drink. So if we're out at a pub where, having a meal out, this is, you're a kid, it's a Thursday night, mum doesn't want to cook. Oh, let's just go and get something, we'll go out. Or, grandma's birthday, the whole family's got together. There's 12 of us at the Torrens Arms or something. Some people are having a beer, some people are having a wine. My mum was never much of a drinker, but she would get a lemon lime and bitters. And I think a lemon lime and bitters is a drink that you can order somewhere else. It's not a drink that people ever make at home. And so it's closer to the, I don't want to say cachet, but it is more of a go out and have a drink than it is I'll just crack one out of the fridge drink, which you can totally do for like any other soft drink. So I think it sits in this sort of comfortable middle ground where it's like almost a mocktail, where if you throw a shot of like vodka in, you're in a cocktail territory. But instead,
you're getting it for the price of a soft drink.
You're getting soft drink prices, and yet it's not the same thing that you're having day to day. It's still a little bit fun and exciting.
Well, I didn't realize it was your mum's favorite drink, and I take it all back. I love you, Pippa. I love lemon lime bitters myself. I find them very refreshing.
And you really often say that with every sip.
Really, really great on a hot summer's day,
Yeah.
When you're out with some friends.
To be honest, if I'm having an LLB, I want to be tasting the L. I want to be tasting the L, and I want to be tasting the B. I don't want it too sweet. I don't. If I have an LLB, if I'm having an if I'm having an LLB, I hate when it's too sweet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Like,
do.
well, let's almost
I
do it
do.
with the soda water, right? Let's do it with a tonic water because I hate when it feels sickly. Am I out of line
Yes.
there?
No, this is just brilliant. This is hard hitting stuff. This is
This is Serial Season 4, the kind of Pulitzer Prize winning journalism. And it's brought to you by La Croix.
yeah. Every now and then I have a little bit of an out of body experience with this podcast, and I get to see it I get to hear it as the listeners hearing it, and I think, you know what, this is good journalism. This is good, and this is journalism.
Yeah, it's one, journalism, and two, good journalism. Welcome to Deep Thought, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. What a lovely day it is outside, but it doesn't matter because you're inside and you're listening to us, and that can happen in any weather. This is a podcast in which we talk through the important things in the world, and I do it with my friend Michael. Hey, Michael.
What's up, fools?
What's up, fools, indeed? Still in the sort of semi-brothely vibes of your Cambodian accommodation. How's it going?
2 more nights, and you said it's a beautiful day outside. It's monsoon weather out there. It's torrential rain for me. So you do not speak for me. You never have, and you never will.
Okay. My apologies. I am excited by the idea of monsoon weather, though. Like that, for someone who's not living in it and doesn't have to suffer the power outages, that's quite exciting.
You know what? Wild weather is just exciting. I love wild weather.
I genuinely agree, and I genuinely get excited when it starts raining. If it's starting raining at like maybe even 10% more than just like drizzle. Like if it's audible in a way that suggests force on the roof, I'm opening the door and I'm going outside to look. And I know how this looks to KC. He's watched me do it, where I'll hear it and I'll be like, whoo, and like turn on the light and go outside and have a look.
Yeah.
And I genuinely am excited by the weather. And I think objectively, we are in the minority, Michael. I don't think this necessarily translates.
Well, I do exactly the same thing. But do you reckon it's something like primal? I think that it might be acting on something primal because, you know, historically and through evolution, you know, wild weather has kind of meant disastrous consequences for
like we're
your community or whatever,
to be aware of it.
But now we have this security in our accommodation wherever we are. We have shelter. We can trust that it's, you know, I'm not speaking about myself right now in Cambodia, but, you know, in most parts of the world, or a lot of parts of the world, you can probably trust that the wild weather is not going to affect you. So you can just like marvel at it.
Yeah.
And I think it might be playing on this like this wrestling, internal kind of wrestling that you have as a mammal that is kind of like kind of nervous or frightened or worried about the weather, but with the security of the shelter that you have. And so it creates excitement.
I wonder if it triggers almost like a fight or flight, right? Because if you're out there on the savannah and there's lightning cracking and stuff, like your animal brain would be saying, okay, do I need to go and find shelter, or am I like facing this thing head on? Like, what are we doing? And I think you're right. I think there's some sort of like DNA remnant, like deep in our ancient genealogy that still goes, oh, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah, I love those moments because you feel alive. I like feeling like an animal. It's like the primal, you know, these days, you know, our primal urges or our primal instincts kind of the dials turn way down.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have, you know, sex and weather and, you know, I guess panic attacks to just remind you that you are an animal.
The big three: sex, weather, and panic attacks. Yeah.
That's the
Bungee
title.
jumping. That's the fourth. Yeah. Those are the four that we have left. The only ways that we can enjoy animalistic thrills.
Well, actually, that's a good point because I don't know if it's a good point. It's an interesting point. Where, you know how like, I think we've talked about heights before and maybe, having some innate fear of heights. Most people have some sort of fear of heights there. But like that seems to me to be like a bit of a strange one because when in our evolution did we really encounter heights apart from like cliffs? I just don't understand I don't know if our brains can fathom falling from a huge height and why it's so terrifying.
Well, it must be from practical realities, right? Like it must be cliffs. Like surely that's enough, right? For that fear to be manifest.
I guess your brain can do the calculation and work out that means death.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't even have to do the calculation. Like it would have begun by monkey fall off tree and fall too far and die, or antelope slip down cliff and hit the bottom and die, and that kind of evidence would be everywhere.
Sure. No, that's a good point. Also, I love those poems.
Yeah, thank you.
Monkey fall off cliff and die. Antelope
tree
fall off tree.
Okay, if you're going to quote my poem, do it accurately, please.
I like the antelope in the tree.
Okay. So you were remixing.
I was remixing.
Okay.
Okay, just sticking on this one more. Because I've got lots of thoughts. We may have discussed this before. I think we've discussed everything at this point.
Yeah, ticked it all off.
But bungee jumping to me, I think I have done neither skydiving nor bungee jumping, but I feel like bungee jumping would be more scary because from a plane, that's when your brain is just like, what, where am I? Like that's like completely outside of the realm of possible genetic memory or whatever. Yeah. So I feel like there's like a threshold there that if you pass through it in a plane, like literally, that your brain is just like, oh, well, it's just like space or whatever. Like, so I feel like bungee jumping to me seems more terrifying than skydiving. Yeah,
I would never bungee jump. It doesn't appeal to me, and I feel like the margin for error is so much smaller. Whereas, like in a skydiving situation, you have minutes before you're hitting the ground, right? Like you've got so much more time there to identify and deal with problems. B, you've got a backup parachute, so if something goes wrong, there's a built-in safety. With a bungee, there is like 5 seconds between you jumping and you being at like the peak extension or whatever. That's not enough time for anything. You're completely not in any control, right? And there's no backups. There's no like, oh, we'll put the second rope on. There's no, like if it fails, it fails. So I have no, and also the act of the spring, like the sudden change in G-forces as well, of going from complete descent or extension into the retraction and the strain that puts on your body as it comes springing back up again. Like that's also not a very good force to put on a body. It just does not appeal to me at all.
No, and you're in the land of the bunge over there, aren't you?
You can fucking bunge everywhere. You bunge to the supermarket. You bunge to go fill up your car. It's so normalized here, but they're completely oblivious to the dangers.
You're also at the mercy of the instructor,
100%.
Which is another kind of weird element. We had a funny experience here where we went to a water park in Penang, and they have one of these water slides. And I haven't been to a water park in, probably 20 years. It was a lot of fun, but they had one of these water slides that you kind of stand on a platform, so you're vertical, and then they remove the chute and you go vertically down.
Yeah.
Straight down, and then it kind of you slide back up and you go in the air for like a few milliseconds and then splash into the water. And this kid, and this is a Southeast Asian water park, so it's not like it's got some standards, but it doesn't have this, all
it's
the
perhaps
standards
not
that you
as
would expect.
engineered to Disneyland standards of like safety and reliability. Yeah.
I would say it probably wouldn't pass a health and safety audit in Australia or New Zealand. But anyway, so this so you kind of you have to walk up all these like rickety stairs to get there, and then there's some kid who is controlling the whole thing, and he's basically just he's like slamming his foot down. Once he locks you in to the glass chute, he like counts you down really quickly, and he slams his foot on the pedal, and the chute goes open, and you just rock it down. And so it's not. There's no professionalism.
Sorry, can you just explain to me what the release mechanism is? Is it a trapdoor where like it flaps open, or is it a retraction like an automatic door?
So it's one. If you can imagine like a square grid, maybe 1 meter by 1 meter.
Yeah.
Grid, and then it's connected to a lever that is opened. So the chute is opened by pressing on a lever, and that is done by the person who is operating it at that time.
But it's a single pivot point, like it swings on one axis.
Yes.
Back up and tucks underneath.
Yes, correct.
Okay, yeah, because I'm just trying to picture how, for instance, they stop your head from banging on the thing as you fall through, or how your feet don't catch on it.
You're kind of leaning your back against the wall.
Okay.
And you're crossing your arms like a Dracula.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of terrifying just walking up these stairs because it's like quite a long way up. And anyway, I went up to do it, and there was this there was a young guy, maybe like 16. He's operating it. He's kind of joking around with his friends. It's a little bit unnerving. But then there's this like really young kid, maybe about 8 years old, who's really psyched himself up to do this big slippy dippy slide.
Yeah.
Right. And you can tell he's terrified. We're kind of watching everyone go down before us. There's about 5 minutes in the line. And anyway, this kid like gets to his turn, and he reluctantly gets in, and he's shaking.
Yeah.
And then he steps out, and he's like, I can't do it. And he lets his friend go ahead. And then this guy who's operating it, this 16-year-old boy, he's just like, are you going to go in now? He's like putting pressure on him after his friend goes ahead. And he's just like, okay. And he's kind of succumbing to the peer pressure. So he gets in the tube, and the guy shuts the door. And then this kid, I felt so bad for him. He immediately, once he's like standing in there, he's like, I can't do it. And he wants to get out, and he starts like knocking on the thing. And we're watching this. Like everyone in the line is watching this, and we're going, oh man, this is like heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And this fucking 16-year-old kid who's operating the ride goes, okay, 1, 2, 3, break. And just like, he just like makes him like tear down it. And this kid is screaming for his life. But happy ending for this story.
Okay.
I went up on this ride a couple of times, and I actually saw this kid again.
Okay.
So he did it, and he overcame it, and he came back.
Oh,
so
that is a happy ending.
I felt really proud for him.
Yeah. And how did you experience it? Did you scream on the way down?
I think it was a silent scream.
Right. Mouth open.
I was trying to do tricks, and it's called the banana flip. So you go down really fast and it flings you in the air. And I was trying to do like, somersaults or whatever, but it's difficult when you're under high pressure like that.
Yeah, with everyone watching as well.
Yeah, got a stage fright.
How have you found Cambodia? Where are you off to in 2 days?
We're back to Vietnam.
Back to Vietnam.
They've just opened up their 3-month tourist visa, which has been closed or unattainable since COVID. So they've literally just opened it back up again. And we're kind of hopping around Southeast Asia at the moment because the longest we can stay is like 1 month.
Yeah.
And so we're right next to it, and we really liked it. And so now we're just going to explore kind of the south.
Yeah.
And previously we were kind of like in the north and the central areas of Vietnam. So there's so much. It's such a huge country. And the cuisine, like the food is quite different and highly specialized in certain cities and stuff. So we really liked it the first time. So we're going to go there and try and spend some more time in kind of more mountainous regions and remote areas, just to get more of a homestay kind of
yeah. I mean, if you can be
experience.
there for 3 months and even if you just base yourself for 1 month somewhere, like that's a significant different feel.
Yeah, totally. And we in all these countries that we're going to in cities, like they are so busy, and it does kind of take a toll on your like, even just to go out to get a bottle of water, sometimes it's a bit like intense.
Yeah.
And there's so much like beautiful countryside and mountainside that you can explore in these places, and you can do it for cheap. So I think our game plan from here is try and be amongst, kind of be closer to nature.
Yeah.
And live a bit more simply.
So we are now end of September. Have you started to think like, where do I want to be Christmas? Does Christmas mean anything to you?
Well, yes and no. Christmas, I think you mean in terms of like
in terms of like
what
if you internally are celebrating anything. Like obviously you're probably not in a place which is going to have celebrations, and you're not intending to see family or anything, but does it mean anything in terms of where you want to be for that kind of period?
Well, I mean, we are kind of considering going to Europe around December, because our visa will run out in December in Vietnam. So we are considering going to Europe for like winter. So there's a possibility that we might be there. There's a possibility that we might still be in Southeast Asia, and there's another possibility that we might be back home. So we just don't know. It's too much
back
up in the
home.
air. We've got like, I mean, potentially
just to say hi and keep moving. You mean, or to wrap it up?
Well, we don't know. We don't know. It depends on a few things. It depends on how we can find, how well our job hunts can be.
Yeah.
And I think part of the challenge that we've experienced is that finding work that's remote, that pays, an appropriate amount, is not full time. There's all these like boxes that you're kind of trying to tick off, and that job pool that you're going for, and we've been applying for jobs for a few months. We're actually looking for like very specific properties of the job.
Yeah.
Which is kind of difficult. So I think our savings will keep lasting us, but I think it's, if we do end up going back home, which it's not necessarily something that we're planning for, it's just an option,
a possibility. Yeah.
That will be determined by our stamina and our will, our resilience, I guess, to a degree, because it is like we have a lot of time here where we're not necessarily, we're seeing a lot of people who are on holiday, right? And we're not necessarily on holiday. We're living in places for a longer period of time than people would on holiday, but a shorter period of time than people who actually live here.
Yeah.
So it's this very weird experience, and the types of places, the Airbnbs, the hotels, we're seeing all these people. It's like quite transient, the people that you see here, and it's very it's a very strange feeling when you're not doing that. You kind of feel like you're either missing out on something, but then there is also like, we feel guilty if we're not being productive and trying to improve our resume and our portfolios and all this stuff. So we feel guilty if we don't do that, but then we also feel guilty if we don't get out and see the country. So we're in kind of no man's land, and that's another thing that is always going to be difficult to anticipate. And we're just working this stuff out as we go along. So we didn't know, we've never done this necessarily like this before. So I guess that's what we're trying to like balance. And on top of that, you're getting like, because of the amount of job applications you're sending out, you're getting like a ton of rejection, which is fine. You kind of get used to it. But yeah, it's like there's all these kind of spinning plates that we're trying to keep going at any given point, and we don't really know what our next 3 months is going to look like, and that's exciting as well. But it's also you kind of crave stability, you crave normality, you crave familiarity of things, and it's also really fun as well, and we have to kind of remind ourselves that it is fun. And like 4 months ago when I was in Melbourne, and I'm speaking for Lauren as well here, like we were We were desperate to leave. We couldn't wait. We couldn't wait to leave. And it's funny now, 4 months in, that we kind of before in Melbourne, we would kind of daydream about all these exotic places that we would go to, and now we're kind of finding ourselves in 4 months in and daydreaming about home. And I find myself doing the strangest things. I used to walk to work every day. It was nothing necessarily exciting about that walk, but I just found myself on Google Street View just doing the walk from my old place to work.
Wow.
I know, it's really, really odd. And it just, I don't know, just like the familiarity of it was, I don't know, I was definitely getting some sort of
dopamine hit from it. Yeah.
That. So yeah, that's kind of the state of play at the moment.
It's interesting. I got a couple of thoughts. One there is that it reminds me of the COVID lockdown feeling that I felt being in New Zealand, where I'd gone back to Australia on the regular sort of once a year, and you'd take going 12 months without seeing people in person was sort of normal and you didn't think about it. But then when those borders went up and you couldn't move and you couldn't travel or whatever, all of a sudden I was like, oh, home, like home has this thing. And remember when you would like go and get a pasty from the bakery, or sit in your backyard for a bit, those kind of things suddenly have that additional power because it's no longer the norm, right? So that it does remind me of, they say absence makes the heart grow fonder, but I think that's true of travel. Like travel changes you in the sense that you come back and you see where you lived with new eyes, and it sounds like you've crossed that threshold now where your new normal is such that the contrast to your old life is more obvious than ever. So I'm not surprised. I mean, 4 months is a pretty hefty amount of time to be in very different environments.
Yeah, and the just tacking on that, it's funny. It's surprising to me how the travel itself can become so normalized when you're doing it so much. And we're hopping borders every month at least. We're going on planes. Sometimes we're taking domestic flights within these countries. So the idea of travel. I've always been someone who loved travel. I would, I'll take you to the airport just to go to the airport, and.
Well, you've always loved spending like $14 on a ham and cheese croissant. So there was other reasons that you enjoyed it too.
Adelaide Airport has the best ham and cheese croissants. I don't know what to do about that. But travel has always been one of the most exciting things for me. But I feel like there has been some sort of mundanity creeping in, and like normalization of travel. And even though we're going from Vietnam to Cambodia to Malaysia, and there are obviously big differences in those countries, there are also a lot of things that feel exactly the same. And just kind of the vibe is more or less the same, and it kind of more feels like going from, I don't know, Melbourne to Queensland maybe. And that's not. I'm fully aware that there's like a lot of history and differences in culture there, but you do kind of also feel, well, I've kind
it's
of
Southeast
seen
Asia,
this a little bit. So I am a little bit surprised by just being, the other thing is like we're going to, we have an international flight in 2 days. And, if you're back home and you have an international flight, it's like probably all you're thinking about for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month in advance. And then at this point, we're just like, oh yeah, we got to go to Vietnam in 2 days. Like it just occurs to us, so that kind of excitement is diminishing a little bit.
Well, I have one idea to throw out there. Fruit picking in New Zealand. You're looking for steady work. There's a ton of people looking for fruit pickers here in New Zealand, and you can see the whole country just going from place to place. Pick some apples here, pick some broccoli here, make your way up and down the country. Paid work, paid lodging.
Nice to pick a brock.
That's what they say. That's the ad campaign. I'm glad that you've seen it already.
Pick some brock.
Pucks and Brock.
How's the fruit picking pay there?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think it's like 55 an hour.
No, it's not.
Cents. Fruit picking New Zealand.
Things are getting wild.
picknz.co.nz. Good name. It's a good name.
Is this really what we're doing right now?
I don't know. It's where I got distracted. You can get up to $200 a week accommodation costs for 26 weeks. You get $500 paid halfway through your work and $500 paid when your work ends. You get support with costs for daily transport to work, clothing, work gear, moving home, training for the job. Anyway, that was just a thought. It would actually
maybe
pay you money.
Maybe we will pick broccolis in New Zealand. That is another option.
Yeah.
Did I tell you that I was gaslit at an Indian restaurant recently?
No, you didn't.
Do you want me to tell you?
I'd love to. I thought that's what you were setting up. If that was all the story was, I would almost suggest it's not worth bringing up.
It's pretty shocking. It's pretty shocking behavior. Okay. So I went in, I was just fanging for a cuzzer. Fanging for a cousin, Nick.
You started to say curry, and then you decided that was too normal. And you backed out. Thanking for a car. I mean, cuzzer.
Trying to relate to the youth.
Sorry.
Banging for a cuz, and in Phnom Penh, and I found this one place. A lot of Indian food in Southeast Asia is surprisingly expensive, like relative to the local dishes. So it was more of a treat yourself thing. And I was out by myself, and I was like, I'm going to treat myself too. I just wanted a vindaloo, just wanted a really spicy, fuck me up vindaloo. And I found this one place that had decent ratings down the road from me, and it was like relatively cheap. So I was like, I'll pop in there, and it was like pissing down with rain. So there was kind of no one on the street, no one in the restaurants. So I walk in like a drenched rat, and the owners there like kind of surprised that I'm coming in and maybe annoyed. It's like 7:30. There's literally no one in the restaurant.
As if they were hoping to shut down or whatever.
Possibly. I got bad vibes from them immediately. And so they sat me down. I think also maybe they see like a white person come in and they're like, I'm gonna have to like coach this person through the menu and everything.
Yeah.
Luckily, I knew
mild up all our sauces.
Yeah, exactly. Well, luckily I knew exactly what I wanted. So I said, lamb vindaloo. It was on the menu. Lamb vindaloo. They're like, okay. It's like one kind of older guy. So this guy, I think he's the chef as well as the waiter, as well as the owner.
Okay.
So I'm like,
family biz, not that many staff on. Yeah.
Right. And I'm doing this stupid thing lately that, when my food's taking a long time, I start looking up the place and I check the reviews while the food's coming out, which is so dumb because then you're expecting badness.
Yeah. I mean, I'm more surprised that you don't pre-check before you go to a place and make that decision.
Okay. Let me clarify. I immediately, when I was looking for an Indian restaurant near me, I was seeing that a 4.2, 4.3 star restaurant, that's good enough for me, but I'm not going into the reviews to check what they are.
Okay. Yeah. You had the big picture 4.2. That's not bad. Yeah.
That's fine. And so I'm waiting for this food. It's taking like 20 minutes to come out. I'm the only person in here. And I start reading the reviews and they're like, I agree. And I'm checking the reviews and then like that sinking feeling, when the first 4 reviews are like 1-star reviews. So this is like a long-standing restaurant that has previously been good and has kind of been, their ratings just been shipping down. Yeah. So they're still at a 4.2, but they really should be maybe a 3.1.
Yeah.
And the reviews are like, owner's rude, food is bland. I'm like, why do I do this to myself? Anyway, half an hour goes by. The food finally comes out. And what he puts in front of me, and I'm going to send this to you, Nick.
Oh, okay.
So I ordered a vindaloo.
Yeah. Did you say lamb vindaloo?
Lamb vindaloo. So that's sent through.
Okay. That is
So
a hot
what does
yellow.
that look like to you?
Yep.
That
It's
is a
hot yellow with a lot of oil on the top. And I can't even see what meat is in it. But maybe like a chicken.
So I think that to me looks like a dal. That looks like heavy turmeric.
It is heavy turmeric.
You know, and I've cooked vindaloo. I'm a vindaloo aficionado in many ways. And that is not a vindaloo. Vindaloo is brown, maybe slightly red.
Yeah.
It's some people use tomatoes.
Strongly red.
Yeah, almost black.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, brown to red to dark. Yeah.
But one thing it ain't is yellow.
Yeah.
Okay. So he hands me this, and I look at him, and he's not really giving me much eye contact, and I'm kind of like, I'm trying to look confused. I'm so hoping that he catches my confusion.
Yeah.
And then I can open up a conversation about how my food is wrong. So
this is pre-taste. You haven't tried it. You just looked
pre-taste.
At it and you're like, okay, face response engaged. Yeah.
So he just walks on away, and so I take a little taste of this, and no surprises. It tasted like coconut and turmeric, and it didn't taste like lamb, and it didn't look like lamb.
Yeah.
So I asked this guy. I said, by the way, I don't like doing this. I especially don't like doing this in a foreign country.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm the guest. I want to be polite. But I'm like, this is kind of bullshit. And I was also just really hankering for a vindaloo.
Yeah.
So he's gone into the back, so I have to like stand up and call him out of the back. And then he comes out and I say, hey, is this vindaloo? And he goes, yes, vindaloo. And I'm like, but it's yellow. And he goes, vindaloo. And then just walks on back of house.
Okay.
So basically the end of this is I just ate the curry and left feeling really annoyed.
Okay. I really thought there was more coming, Michael.
No,
your story had a really nice build-up and then absolutely no end. Just a quick end. It was. There's not even like a clarification whether it was or was not lamb.
Well, I didn't get that information.
Well, did you eat? What was there meat in there?
There was meat in there. I don't know what it was. It wasn't lamb. It was maybe like, I don't know. It could have been chicken, quite frankly. But I was just kind of angrily scoffing it to get out of there because I felt lied to. I felt gaslit. And I was just like, this is like, maybe tell me, this is what I think happened. I think, they were maybe looking to close up shop. I was the only one in there. They probably didn't have a vindaloo sauce ready to go, or he couldn't be bothered. So he was like, this stupid fucking white guy is coming here. He probably doesn't know the difference between a Vinny and a Madras.
Well, a Madras would also be a lot redder. Like, there's no way you could pass it off as a Madras.
Or maybe a korma.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, good.
So,
yeah.
Thanks, Nick. So I think he's just gone, I'll just give him whatever, and he'll probably be happy with it, which I wasn't, obviously. And he's just tried to pull the wool over my eyes there, and I felt incensed.
Yeah. Well, do you want, for the first time ever, us to jump on with our deep thought Google reviews account and just leave a negative Google review for the restaurant?
Well,
for the first time, obviously, that we haven't done that before, and it hasn't come up.
And we certainly haven't done it with what was
a dumpling Mr. place Kim's in the middle of town.
Dumplings, yeah.
No, definitely haven't.
Well, I immediately, as soon as I left that place, I went outside and banged away on my phone a nasty review, and by nasty I mean
I was gaslit.
I screenshotted it. And that would have been good if I was just like I was gaslit. I use all this like modern therapy language, like Jonah Hill language.
Oh god, Jonah Hill reviews a bad doll.
That's a segment. That's a segment.
God.
Yeah, I experienced a lot of trauma from this.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, anyway, we don't need to.
Well, it's not the worst story we've told on this podcast, but it's not perhaps a recent highlight either.
Oh, okay. Wow. Didn't realize we were
Well, it didn't really have it. I thought there was more coming. I wanted a fist
life,
fight.
Nick. I also thought there was more coming. Vindaloo. Look, that's life, Nick. Not every story in life has a perfect, arc and denouement.
Okay.
That's what you wanted.
Well, that's a very deep philosophical point, and maybe that makes it all worth it. In the meantime, I think it's time for some mailbag, because this is an important follow-up that has been pending for a while.
Okay, let's go.
Play the jingle.
Mailbag, it's the weekly mailbag.
Deep thoughts, mailbag. Okay. For fuck's sake. Did you have something to say, Michael?
No, I didn't. No,
okay.
I didn't.
So we got an email here today referring to something we discussed 2 episodes ago. It is from our good friend Casper. Casper writes, "Hello, Deep Fort. Casper here of Young C fame," referring to his musical debut on this podcast. "Just a few comments on the chess scandal from your last ep. Love chess getting some airtime, albeit for the wrong reasons. There are 2 different things here." So just to throw your mind back, there was a mention a few episodes ago that there had been changes to the admission policies, or the pro tier of chess playing, that was excluding trans women from competing. Do you remember this discussion, Michael?
I sure do.
Well, we'd asked for comments from the chess fans in the audience, and Casper has helped us out. So there are 2 different things here. The first is the banning trans women from women-only chess events, which I agree is ridiculous. While it's true statistically that there are many more strong male players, it's absurd to suggest that's due to a biological advantage and not its heavily male-centric culture, both historical and current. I assume and can only hope that FIDE, the Chess Authority, will backtrack on this. The other thing you mentioned, the stripping of held titles if a woman transitions to a man but not the reverse, meaning men transitioning to women can keep their titles, is a little more complicated. On the surface, it sounds outrageous, but it does make some sense. The minimum FIDE rating, which is an ELO system, to be awarded the title of WGM, the Women's Grandmaster, is 2,300, whereas for Grandmaster, the minimum rating is 2,500. So it makes sense that trans women could retain their Grandmaster titles, but trans men could not. I'm not sure why they made the rating lower for a women's Grandmaster in the first place, or even created the title, as Grandmaster is an open title, not a male one. I can only guess that it's because they wanted to see more young girls and women get into chess, and of the 924 active players above 2,500 FIDE rating, only 13 are women. So in the pursuit of greater representation and equity in the game, I do follow the logic, though I can see legitimate arguments for and against. Anyway, hopefully that sheds a little light, and here's my vote for Chess Chat to develop into a segment on the show. I know you both love an excuse for a good jingle, and God knows you need the content, so I've whipped up some possible titles. It's Not All Black and White. Or Checking In. Pretty good. That's pretty good. Pawnhub, spelt with an AWN, porn. Or
that's good.
Michael's Checkered Past. Hasta la vista. See.
Oh,
thank you, Casper.
Uncharacteristically informative email from Casper there.
Yes, very informative, and overdue follow-up on that discussion from a few episodes back. So that does help illuminate the situation. I haven't actually checked to see whether there's been any further developments in that story.
And
but
we won't,
informative, and we won't.
We don't care.
Yeah, and God knows we need the content.
Good email, that one.
Good email.
It's nice getting those emails in from our listeners that are actually like actual emails that are thoughtful.
Yeah,
it's
and
nice.
Of course, if you want to participate by sending, suggestions about how Michael can find a good vindaloo, send them to deepfort@gmail.com and we can read them out in a future mailbag sent. But it'll be helpful.
Yeah. So,
Michael, do you have any weird news?
fucking hell, good dog. Yeah. I got a big old WN for you here. Big old whopping. All right. This is why I don't do intros. Play the jing.
In the news today from the Strange and Weird Fact File.
Well, for decades, only crackpots and crazy people believed in UFOs.
Deputies say the suspect told them he's been performing sex acts on animals since the 1970s.
I told about my close encounter with the Yeti.
A sticky situation at an airport in Tennessee after baggage was sprayed with rust.
Turns out, the government had been taking them seriously all along.
This is Deep Fault Weird News with Michael Zuberefkala Sludge.
All right. So this one was an actual story for once.
Wait. What are you saying about the quality of your other news sources in Weird News prior? Are you suggesting this is maybe a segment based on quote unquote journalism versus like legitimate journalism?
Well, it's one of the few articles for Weird News that hasn't come out of The Sun. UK.
Oh, okay.
Or Lad Bible.
Or
those institutions of journalistic integrity. But this is actually from The Guardian.
Can I just very briefly, just because you brought that up, it made me think of old Rupi's retirement. Do you have any thoughts on, we've talked previously about how Murdoch was possibly the most dangerous, horrible, impact from his tenure on Earth. And he's stepping down. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Honestly, I didn't have a lot of feelings or thoughts regarding it, but everything to me about Rupert Murdoch now is just framed through Succession. So I'm just kind of thinking about it like
Brian Cox is stepping down.
Who's taking over, and that's how I'm just like, what's the behind the scenes looking like at the moment?
The theme song's playing. Yeah, exactly. Well, it went to the best boy, the oldest boy, so we'll see what happens. Sorry, you said son and I thought about it.
All right, so coming out of The Guardian, so this made the rounds last week. A Danish artist who submitted empty frames as artwork was told to repay the funding. So I'll just read the article here. A Danish artist who pocketed large sums of money lent to him by a museum and submitted empty frames as his artwork has been ordered by a court to repay the funds. Jens Harning, a conceptual artist whose work focuses on power and inequality, was commissioned in 2021 by the Kunsten Museum of Modern Art in Aalborg, northern Denmark, to recreate two earlier works that use scores of banknotes to represent average incomes. Harning's 2007 work, An Average Danish Annual Income, displayed kroner notes fixed to canvas in a frame, and a second 2011 work about Austrian incomes used euro bills. The museum provided about 532,000 kroner, which is about 62,000 pounds or euro, from its reserves to recreate artworks, as well as an artist's fee of about 40,000 kroner. But when staff unpacked the newly delivered works, they found two empty frames with the title, Take the Money and Run. The museum put the new artworks on display, but when Harning declined to return the money, it took legal action. On Monday, a court in Copenhagen ordered the artist to repay the money that was lent to him, but said he should still be paid his fee. At the time, the director of the Kunsten Museum told The Guardian, "We are not a wealthy museum. We have to think carefully about how we spend our funds, and we don't spend more than we can afford." Harning told Danish radio at the time, "The work is that I have taken their money. It's not theft. It is a breach of contract, and breach of contract is part of the work." He added, "I encourage other people who have working conditions as miserable as mine to do the same. If they're sitting in some shitty job and not getting paid and are actually being asked to pay money to go to work, then grab what you can and beat it." It goes on, but I think I can just leave it there.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty interesting conceptual art piece. I mean, it's got Banksy vibes.
I was going to say, I wonder how this would have gone down if Banksy had done it.
But it is kind of, yes, exactly. The empty frames would be worth thousands, millions. But yeah, it is an interesting. It's kind of, I guess I do find it interesting, and it has become a news story, which adds cachet and value to the art. So there is a potential for this artwork to actually, find some value.
Well, I mean,
it is
how many millions of people around the world have now heard about this artist and this stunt? Maybe part of the logic behind it is do this, expect to cause a stink, brag about it on radio. And again, all the hubbub is part of the impact, right? Like if you're a conceptual artist, any sort of discussion is a win, right?
And it's also kind of a winning to just like Joe Blow, because, people I think everyday kind of people who aren't necessarily, art inclined, they have this kind of sense that art's kind of bullshit, or it's people staring at paintings is kind of self-indulgent and pretentious.
Yeah.
So I think it does play to the regular person who doesn't actually appreciate art, because they go, oh look, he's making a mockery of your pretentiousness. Yeah. So it's pretty conceptually. It's actually I find it pretty interesting.
Yeah, I agree, and I think he probably knows as well that legally he had no legs to it, because what the contract stated, at least from what you read in the article, was that they were going to lend him the cash to reproduce the art. Because if the art is sticking a bunch of notes together to make a statement about the worth, that's not actually an expense. Like at the end of the installation, the museum could reasonably have expected to take those cash notes back, and it becomes their property again. And then that's why the artist gets paid their $40,000 as the fee, because that's actually the compensation for the work created. So I think on its face, the idea that he would say, okay, yes, you've given me the cash, you've given me the product to build my art out of, and with the expectation it's going back, and actually I'm going to keep all that for myself and not even use it in the thing. I'm sure that he knows that he has absolutely no right to that money.
Yeah.
So you have to assume
stolen money. Yeah.
It's stolen money. And he says on the radio it's a breach of contract. So he knows it. But I think
it's all very charming, actually.
Yeah. I think it's the fact that he got dragged into court about it. Like, do you think that the museum wanted this to be a court case? No, they probably said, well, look, give us back the money and we can just like put this behind us. And he says, no, because he wants it to go to court, because that's the art, right?
That's the publicity. Yeah.
It's the publicity, it's the story, it's the controversy, it's the discussion about it that is actually the piece that he's presenting, right? So at the end of the day, the museum is going to get their money back. He's got all this publicity. Honestly, it's just like a win-win.
Everybody wins.
Everyone wins.
Exactly.
And the court still paid. The court said he deserves the money because he's presented an art piece. So they've recognized it as a effective, communication. So
well,
win-win.
It poses an interesting question as well. I mean, the photo for this article is a woman kind of with her arms crossed, staring at this blank canvas.
Yeah,
as if to read into it, which it's just very funny. I guess the only loser here is the art world, who have kind of been made a fool of a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, I wouldn't even say necessarily that's universal. The gallery has possibly been made to look a little bit of a fool. But how many people are going to go and now see this thing, right? Like how many people are going to come through the door or have heard about a place to visit now? But in terms of the art world, I can't imagine that it's like a universal. Everyone's going, tut, tut, this guy's making a mockery of us. I'm sure there are just as many people out there who are being like, yeah, that's funny, or that's effective, or that's clever. It's very hard to herd the cats that is the artist, world.
True. Yeah, so it's an interesting little story last week. A little bit of fun.
Have you done any like galleries or museums or things where you've been around?
Yeah, lots. It's one of the typically one of the free things that you can do here in Asia. So we can, we've been doing lots. Where did we go recently? I'm not going to remember the name of it, but there's quite a few. There's quite a thriving art community, especially in Thailand, but also in Cambodia, and a lot of like traditional meeting modern artists. And I think it's quite interesting seeing these countries that have for many years kind of at least been closed off, possibly closed off to the Western world, but then rapidly urbanizing and developing and kind of relaxing a little bit, and seeing like the youth culture kind of evolve out of that and blossom out of that. It's there are some exciting parts of Southeast Asia where you're seeing a lot of young artists put up exhibitions. So we've enjoyed quite a bit of it, actually.
What's the media that you're seeing, like paintings or sculpture or
we went to one gallery that was the concept was everybody cries sometimes. So it was kind of all black and white. It was kind of installations with visual art, with sculptures. It was kind of all encompassing.
Multimedia.
There was there was another one that we just had they had like characters. And so all of the art was this like specific character that you could interact with. It's a lot of like Instagram-y kind of art installations that young people just come in to get a photo with. They don't give a shit about the art. They just want to get
I see. Instagram-y, not in terms of the artist's intent, but in terms of like as a visitor, say you've been there or shown you've been there or share you've been there. Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing with art. Like this Danish artist has kind of shown that it's like art is hype. Like so much of art is hype. Like think about the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa, if you knew nothing about it, you'd walk past it. And we've agreed on this before.
Yeah.
That the Mona Lisa is nothing, but what the Mona Lisa has become is this thing that everyone knows.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing. Have you seen Glass Onion?
Yes.
It's the thing of that where some of the reactions. Okay, spoilers coming for Glass Onion. At the end of that film, the Mona Lisa is burnt to a crisp, and there was reaction in some of the aftermath of that release, with some critics or viewers saying that felt like a step too far, that was sacrilegious for the protagonist character to have done this, or for the expectation of the director that the audience would see this as a win or something like that because of what it represents, which is the Mona Lisa almost represents art itself to humanity, right? It's the face of art. But you're right, like we've talked in a vacuum, like whether or not you put that in a hall full of other portraits, whether that one intrinsically would be seen the same way in a vacuum.
Yeah, art's bullshit, isn't it?
But that's what makes it so special, is that it can be something to anyone, right? Like you can define not just visual art, but any art. Music means something to someone and something completely different to another. A track can hit you or it not hit you, and a visual piece can trigger something, or you just walk right by it. That's the reflection of humanity, isn't it?
Couldn't have said it better myself, Nick.
And you didn't. It does remind me, I think I told this story ages ago on the podcast, but when I was traveling in 2012 on my big overseas trip with my former friend Sam, we ended up in France.
Former friend?
Yeah, do you remember, like, basically by the end of that trip, I stopped the friendship.
They don't listen to the show, do they?
No, I haven't spoken to him in a decade or more.
Slag him off then.
Yeah, but I remember we got to Paris and we went to the Louvre, and it very much felt like we were doing the Instagram version of this travel, where he wanted to go to the Eiffel Tower and take the photo, and he wanted to go to the Louvre because you go to the Louvre when you're in Paris and that sort of thing. And I was so excited for it because it's like the greatest museum in the world, and it's gigantic, and it's just got everything. And so we'd got this sort of early, and I was excited, and we were just going to split up because it's it's huge, and you got different interests. So it's like, okay, I'll meet you back here in an hour or two in the central atrium, and we'll just like check in and let each other know where we're heading off to and that sort of thing. And I was prepared for like, okay, I'm probably going to be here for like at least half a day. There's a good 5 hours of me like wandering all of this amazing art. You put a lunch break in the middle. It's going to be the day's thing. And we went wandering off and did our thing, and I'm having a great time. I got the audio book, like listening to all the like the little headphone information about the stuff, like having a blast. And then I sort of on my travels loop back through the main thing, and I see Sam sitting in a couch in the middle of the hall. And it's been like 40 minutes or something like that, and he's just sitting there in the middle. And
doing nothing,
just sort of like chilling. And I wander up on his phone probably, and I wander up like, oh, hey, what's up? How's it going? And he says, oh, yeah, I think I'm done.
Oh,
I'm like,
no.
What? Oh, yeah, I'm sort of finished. So you can keep wandering for a bit, but yeah, I've sort of done it.
Seen everything.
Went to the Mona Lisa. Did my bit, and I was like, you've seen the entire Louvre in 40 minutes.
Did you say it like that?
And I was like, oh, we have very different expectations or appreciations for what we're currently experiencing. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not quite done yet. It's been 40 minutes. So maybe if you want to head off and do something else, like don't sit around for me, because I'm several hours away from feeling like I've appreciated this to its full extent.
And did he leave?
I don't remember. I would hope so. Not maliciously, but like if you're not interested in a thing, you don't want to be sitting around there for 3 hours waiting for someone else. Like, just go do something else.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with like art galleries. It's kind of it's taken me a while to work out how to approach them. Because like there is a little bit of like imposter syndrome that you have with people who know art, and if you're kind of going through this exhibition, like you're like kind of looking at a painting, and you might read the little description next to it, and it took me so long to get over the imposter syndrome anxiety of like, am I doing this right? And before I realized that like there is no right, you kind of go towards anything that catches your eye or you're attracted to, and you kind of let loose.
Yeah.
But that took me way too long to actually realize, and I think a lot of people probably do still go through that, like that, and that kind of turns them off. They think, oh, this is over my head, when in fact it's just, it's nothing. It's like it's whatever you think it is.
And also I think it's very reflective of the type of art that ends up in museums, because I know from now, the experience I've had of visiting places, that I have very little interest in portraiture. Like I don't really care for like a 17th century or 18th century portrait of someone. It doesn't, like, people and faces very rarely interest me. And the same with like sort of like classical kind of stuff. Like I can appreciate it. Like a nice landscape's nice to look at, but it doesn't really like sing.
It's a bit much.
But I mean, it's not even that I can't appreciate it. It's just that it doesn't do it for me. Whereas if I end up in a modern art museum or something that's got a lot of like really conceptually interesting stuff, or aesthetically unnerving, or interesting, fractal patterns, or like just crazy shit, that's when my brain fires up. Or sculptures made of crazy items, or using really inventive materials, or like that kind of stuff, is I can stare at that forever, because it breaks my brain in a really like pleasing way. Like, how did they make this only out of scissors? Or like, what does this mean? What does it make me feel? What is this color? What's this texture? That kind of stuff. I could stare at a single painting for 10 minutes happily, if it's got that level of like complexity or interest to me. But you don't see that as commonly as you see dull white men from the 1800s staring at the painter. And if you've never had the opportunity to see the variety of stuff that could be hanging in those museums, I totally get looking at people walking up and down a room and being like, what am I meant to be doing? What are they seeing? What am I getting? Because I don't see it, you know? Yeah.
I think, my appreciation for art is like a lot more basic than that. Like all I'm drawn to basically, if I'm in a gallery and I see a melting clock, I'm going towards the melting clock nine times out of 10.
Got to. Yeah.
Got to.
I love a Dali.
I love the melting clocks.
Yeah.
It's probably a bit like rudimentary or whatever to people in the artwork, but you like what you like.
Yeah. And it wasn't, because at the time everyone was like, what the fuck is this guy doing with the clocks? What is his deal?
Yeah.
There's ants on everything. Has he even seen an elephant? If you've enjoyed this kind of episode, well, that's very kind of you. And I hope that it has brought you a moment of joy as you've lived your life, and that you'll now enter in the rest of your day feeling uplifted and inspired to perhaps create some art of your own. There's plenty of ways that you could keep in touch with us if you'd like. You can listen to other episodes in the podcast feed. You can find us on Facebook. You can reach out to us on Instagram, send a message, like our posts. You can listen on Spotify and give us the old 5-star rating. Same with your Apple Podcasts. And as previously mentioned, you can send a question or a comment or a bit of feedback to deepfort@gmail.com, and we'd be sure to read it eventually.
How are we closing this bitch out, Nick?
I would appreciate if you didn't use that kind of language around me. But I'd like to talk about ringtones.
All right. Bling, 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 bling.
What if it's just we play Crazy Frog for the next 17 minutes?
You know what? In a movie that I mentioned the other week, the Adelaide film Talk to Me, one of the characters in it, it's like set in modern day, but she's got the Crazy Frog ringtone. I thought it was quite an interesting joke, because it's something that only like millennials would probably get, but it's like quite interesting, like having a younger kind of Gen Zer making fun, like doing that ironically.
Right. So this is like a 2023 16-year-old or something with the Crazy Frog ringtone.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
It's pretty interesting.
Michael, I don't know if you've updated to the old iOS 17. But,
sure have, man. Sure have.
A lot of nice improvements, features, But one of the big ones, some new ringtones. And I feel like we're in a era now where a ringtone is almost a rare occurrence. I certainly live #silent life, and I know many people do. But I feel like that we might be missing an opportunity here to just explore some of these ringtones and what they might say about you as a person. Because historically we were living in a world of beeps and bloops, and now we're in a polyphonic soundscape where the Crazy Frog feels like he's right next to you. So I thought that I would just go through
Can
a
I
few
just
of these.
ask, what was your ringtone before this? Was it just the default?
I genuinely don't know.
Yeah.
No, I would have changed it from that. Maybe I'll be able to find it when I look back through.
Okay.
So there are a whole bunch of new sounds, and I feel like they've had some explicit influences, like musical influences now. And I just want to get some feedback as we go through some of these, and just you let me know what kind of person would use this, and or what kind of inspiration do you think was taken with these things.
Got it.
So this is the classic, of course. So that's default. That's the current reflection.
I did not know that.
That's
an alarm to me.
The old. The old one there. That's been retired. We're not living in a marimba world anymore. I did send you a link, right? I think, of someone playing a ballad version of the marimba on piano. Did you ever listen
I vaguely remember that. Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah. Anyway, so this is your default. Yep. Everything from now on, we're in a new area, right? I think we're going to write that one off as basic bitch. Now we're in a world where you've made a conscious choice, and so I want to know what this says about you.
All right, hit me.
Arpeggio.
God. Oh. That's too much. Obviously, too much. It sounds like it's going towards like more of a clubby kind of thing, like a David Guetta kind of thing. But then it kind of, I like that it gets a little bit melancholic.
That's what I was going to say. I think there's actually an interesting tonal thing there, where it almost hits like a minor note in this second phrase, where it goes from being just sort of like an alert into like almost a feeling, you know?
Yeah, intrigue. It's the second chord that does it for me.
Yeah,
but still not for me. It's still not for me. It's too much.
Maybe this is the way we should approach this. Maybe we should try and find your new ringtone. So keep that in the back of your mind. I also think that the tonality of some of these is interesting. So let's keep this moving. Breaking.
Okay. It's neither here nor there. I don't like those chords at all, though.
Yeah, a little bit nothing for me too. Canopy.
That's kind of interesting. It kind of sounds like it could be the start of a song.
Yeah, it's a little bit more pleasant than breaking, but I don't think it gets there for me. Chalet.
That's lovely. That is lovely.
See, that I feel like we're in Bibio territory to me. That is very...
No, I was going to say, there's a little bit of a warp on there. It's like put through a tape.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit of a wobble, which I really love. A little nostalgia.
It's very nostalgia.
But it's soft, and it's kind of loud enough to get your attention with the kind of the bells.
And I think what I like about it as well, look, getting a phone call in this day and age is traumatic enough. What I don't want is to feel like I'm being smacked over the head with some abrasive kind of ringing, shrill buzzer, you know. And I think this has a real
mallet.
It's like a wave. It's like a nice kind of like a wash of, hey, I'm hearing something. Oh, yeah, my phone is receiving a call. You know, it puts me in a much better place.
It's a realization that someone's calling you rather than an abrasive, terrifying feeling.
Yeah.
What's that one called again? That's called Chalet.
Yeah, and what an emotion.
Too. French. Yeah. Love it. All right, we love Chalet.
We're loving Chalet. Chirp. Octave shift, and now here we go. It's got a little bit of like a syncopation.
Ringing. Answer your fucking phone. Yeah, I think that's got you written all over it.
It's got a bit of a grower energy there. Like, I wouldn't have thought when first listening that chirp is what I want, but it's got a musicality behind it that actually intrigues me.
I might set that to your individual ringtone, not that you have ever called me.
Okay. I never will. And also, I don't know what your international number is. This one's Daybreak.
Is this written by Boards of Canada?
It feels that way.
That's great.
That's lovely. That's in the same vibe as Chalet for me. It's got a certain like restrained, nostalgic wistfulness. Like, I feel like that's what I want it to sound like when my deceased grandmother calls. You know, like
absolutely.
That's bringing me back somewhere to a nice place.
That's not screaming ringtone for me, but I think I would use that for an alarm. That's the kind of thing I like to wake up to.
Interesting.
Yeah. feel like that one would get annoying for me.
That's interesting to me, I think, musically. Like changing when the arpeggio hits or the order of the arpeggio and then like the number of repeats it does. Like they've taken a swing there.
Wouldn't you love to see like a short documentary on the people that make these ringtones?
I'd be
it's begging
fascinated.
for it, isn't it?
It is begging for it. How do people sign off on it? Like, what are the criteria that Apple's looking at?
How is
when
it
they go
passed
through
through the
these?
chain of command?
Yeah. Oh, that one's just a little bit discordant, or that one's not discordant enough.
Yeah. What are the notes?
What are the
that people are
notes?
getting from Apple?
Yeah.
You know what I'm noticing with these ringtones is that I think that Apple are making a conscious choice to make ringtones with like making them more interesting, like musically.
I agree. Musically interesting. This is why I brought this segment up, because when I was going through this process, I didn't think it would have like musicianship.
You've done this whole thing already by yourself.
Oh, I have, yeah. Because I chose a new ringtone.
I was just imagining Casey listening to you from the other room while you're playing through all the ringtones and just going, that's not bad. That's interesting to yourself.
Look, I don't want to peek behind the curtain here, but it probably happened. Cute. Milky Way.
Oh. There's too much going on there.
I agree. I think they overdid it. I think for one, talking about space, it doesn't give me space vibes at all.
No space vibes. And this is the other thing with a ringtone, presumably you're going to be hearing it quite a lot. You know? And you have to factor in that there's going to be some there's going to be some depreciation, some serious depreciation once it leaves the car yard.
Yeah.
So I think that is that's never going to work.
That's tolerable at best to start and would only grow increasingly uncomfortable the more and more you hear it.
Yeah. Is this not a ringtone? I'm trying to.
That was on Coldplay's last album.
I'm trying to think who is that ringtone for?
It's an interesting
that one. Is it? I was thinking maybe like a bit of like a hippie kind of mum.
Yeah, well, here's what I was thinking. I felt like it was the career guidance instructor at high school. Like they're in a class, they're dealing with some, you've had a one-on-one counseling session with a kid, and, maybe the principal's calling to say, look, we've had another, stabbing on the lawn. Can you come and help? But they don't want to interrupt the vibe of telling Lacey she'd be a great gymnast,
Right. Yes. Yeah, good call. Do you know why I like that one?
Is it the chromatic scale at the end?
I love that you're conducting the ringtone just then. By the way, people, this is what people don't get to see. Nick conducted that. Not so much about what it was going on musically there, but it kind of reminded me of like, it made me think. The feeling was your reception is just trying to get your attention, but you're in a big meeting, but it's a urgent phone call, but she's being very polite. She's going, she's trying to tell you that you kind of need to take this call. She stuck her head in the door. But she's being very soft and polite about it. I mean, that's what I want in a ringtone.
Yeah, that's a good
It's like
call.
you don't have to take this, but you might want to.
And do you know what it's called? It's called tease, which I think is perfect.
Oh, sexy, yeah. Oh, you like that one?
7/8, Michael. 7/8.
Is that really?
7/8 in a ringtone.
That's just a straight up good song.
In the year of my Lord 2023. That has Nico Muley written all over it. That is the end of a prestige drama.
That's just a very good piece of music.
Yeah, that one is titled Unfold, and I think it has class, it has sophistication, it has nuance. It's appropriate in every environment. You would happily let that ring in a doctor's office, in a meeting, out on the field. No one's going to be judging you for that. In fact, they're going to walk away with like a positive association, I think.
That's a head turner.
If you think
about your phone ringing in the doctor's office, or waiting in the waiting room, people are looking around and go, who is this guy?
Is there a billionaire here? Because that is
so
classy.
Fucking beautiful.
Yeah. That's like something out of The Leftovers.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't seen it, but totally, I just want to agree with you.
I appreciate that.
Oh, well, that was fun, Seggy.
So that's the list. That's what we've gone through. That's the state of the ringtones 2023. How are you feeling, Michael? Do you reckon you're back off silent mode, or has it swayed you into maybe an update?
Well, how about I just show you what my ringtone is?
Sure.
Okay, well, first of all, to answer your question, I like that Apple is kind of stepping up their game. They're obviously investing in some
big
interesting,
money.
Talented composers.
Yeah.
So I do think it's a step up. Do I think people are going to go for it? Do I think the average person cares? No. But, it makes for good content on a podcast. So this is my...
Listeners decide.
Well, it's figure of speech. This is my ringtone.
That's spicy. That's your ringtone. If I called you right now, that's what it would play.
Yeah.
Wow. How did you end up there? It's very percussive.
So, yeah, it is just percussive. And that's what I liked about it. There's not too much going on, but the actual, I believe it's a congo. It's it's got like a roundness to it, like the actual sound. It doesn't cause me anxiety. And a lot of sounds, especially when I'm surprised by them or not expecting them, cause me anxiety. Like I spike in anxiety. Like if you screamed at me right now, I would go, like I'd feel it in my body. So that sound to me, those congos are warm enough that I'm not startled, but also gets my attention. So that's why I've landed on timber.
Okay. Well, I think for those of you playing at home, I think our highlights were definitely the chalet.
Love Chalet.
And Daybreak. Both of which had that nostalgic wistfulness. And in fact, yes, Daybreak is where I landed personally. So if you were to call me, that's where I ended up.
Oh, so you've actually gone there?
I was already on Daybreak, yeah.
Okay. Well,
please, listeners, write in and tell us what your ringtones are.
Maybe we'll do a poll.
Your favorite new tones.
Yeah. What are the other features of iOS 17?